Alright, so this is where we stopped last time, and in this video we're going to create the ropes for our bridge. Now the first approach that some people might think of is basically by creating a cylinder, then basically extruding it and adjusting its shape until it looks something like a rope. But this is not a good approach, because later on, in case you want to change the shape of your bridge, you will not be able to do any of that because you basically just created a cylinder and extrude it, and you can't change that. That's why we need another approach that will give us more flexibility to change the shape of our bridge the way we want. And the best way to do such thing is basically by using curve. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to drag this a little bit down, and let's go Shift A, and let's look under curve. I'm going to add a Bezier curve, and this curve will basically be responsible to adjusting the shape of our ropes, number one, and in general the shape of our bridge. And as you can see right now, this curve is basically flat on the ground. And please, right now you need to focus a little bit so that you do the same exact things that I'm going to do. Mainly, please check your orientation. What I mean is, make sure that when you're looking at this curve, please make sure that your gizmo looks something like that. The X is from this side, the Z of course on the top, and you will have the green of the minus Y in front of you. If you do it in different orientations later on, you might not be able to connect all the axes the same way we're doing it. Not that there is something wrong if you connect them in another way, it is just that we will use these axes later on, so at least make sure that you're using the same orientation as I'm using right now, so you connect basically everything the same way. So make sure you're looking this way, and what I'm going to do is basically to hit tab. And this curve, as I mentioned, it is right now it is perfectly flat on the ground. I need to rotate it a little bit. So hit A to select everything while I am in the edit mode, hit R, hit X, and then hit 90 to basically rotate it 90 degree, and just hit enter. Hit tab again to exit the edit mode, and as you can see, basically this curve right now is perfectly standing up, let's say. Alright, let's get back to our normal rotation. Always check your gizmos that are more or less similar to mine, and actually you can hit 1 in case you want to jump to the front view, so hit 1 in the number pad. I'm going to hit tab again, I'm going to select only this point, and I'm going to hit R to rotate it. Let's say something like so. Let's also select this one, hit R to rotate it, and maybe let's just bring it to somewhere right here and bring this bad boy somewhere right here. Let's scale it by hitting S. Let's bring it a little bit up. Hit S again. Maybe bring this a little bit on the x-axis, just like so. And you will have something basically looking like so. This is our curve, which will act as the rope. So just make sure that you will have more or less a similar shape. Let's hit tab to exit the edit mode. Let's just hit N to open the sidebar right here. And under item, you will have the dimensions of my curve. I'm going, for example, to just put it on the x-axis 10 meter. And for the z-axis, let's say 3 meters. 3 meters. So yeah, these are the dimensions of my curve that will act as the bridge line. Maybe just hit tab, and I'm going to bring this a little bit down, just like so, and rotate it a little bit. All right, this is kind of better. All right, so basically these are the dimensions for my curve. So try to at least have a similar shape and similar dimensions to mine. And the final thing I'm going to do is basically to hit Ctrl A and apply the scale. And hit Ctrl again, and let's also apply the rotation, even though it is zeros, but just to make sure. And this curve will basically be the main element driving our bridge. Now, some of you might say, why, Yassine, are you basically really focused on the numbers and all of that? And here's the reason. Because a lot of things that we will do later on in the geometry node are really based on the scale of our curve. That's why I want you to have a similar scale so that your values will be more or less close to my values. I'm not saying that the only values that will always work is my values. No, it is just for convenience and that you will be able to follow. But if you want to play with all of these values, feel free to do all of that. Just make sure that you know what you're doing. That's all. Okay, so right now we do have our curve, and let's start working a little bit on the geometry node side. First of all, I'm just going to jump to the modifiers properties just to tell you that, hey, geometry nodes, it is just another modifier. So you can either go add modifier and you can add it from here. Where is it? I've never been able to find one modifier at the first try. So yeah, it is this one. You can either add it from here, or you basically just go click on new to create a new geometry node instance. I'm going to click on it and let's call it bridge. Perfect. And let's start working, everyone. I'm just going to hit N to hide the sidebar and hit T to hide all this one right here, the toolbar. And yeah. So our input right here is basically the curve, and we're just basically passing it all along right here. And basically all the operations that we will do right here, they will be applied to this curve. And just so that you understand what we will do, here's what we will be doing. Any bridge in real life is basically generally composed of 4 main ropes. We will have this one, and basically in a logical way, we will have another one from here, and another one underneath that, and another one from here. So basically we need to duplicate this one 4 times, let's say. So let's just do that. It is gonna be fun and super simple. I'm going to add, first of all, a node called resample curve. I'm just gonna put it above the link and it will be automatically connected. What does this node do? Well, as you probably remember, the curve we do have is composed of 2 points, 1, 2. And 2 points are not enough basically to distort this curve the way we want later. That's why the resample curve is basically just going to subdivide this curve more. In this case, we're subdividing it 10 times, and I'm going to basically make it a higher number. Let's say something like 40. So basically our curve right now will be smoother, and it will just make it a little bit better. And even in case if we basically make it bigger or smaller, it will always be high resolution, and we will always basically have a smooth curve. So this is what the resample curve do, and after doing that, I'm going to basically duplicate this curve one more time from the side and another 2 times basically beneath it. So to do that, it is pretty simple also. What I'm going to do is basically to add a transform node, and this is basically just a simple one. It will allow me to change the position of this one, and in this case I want it to be on the y-axis, let's say somewhere like 5 meters, even though it is a little bit overkill. But we changed the location of the original curve because the curve used to be here. We changed its location there. We don't want that. We wanted to create another one in this location. So it is pretty simple. As you probably remember, the curve that is coming out of here is basically the curve in the original position, which is here. But we change its location through this node. We change its location to be transformed. So what if we tell Blender that, hey, one curve I want it to be there, and also use the input or the output of this node right here to combine it. In other words, this curve, I'm going to combine it with the curve before. So to do this, go Shift A and let's look for join geometry, this one. I'm going to combine my original curve, and I'm just going to input this to the group output. By the way, what is connected to the group output, it is always what will be visible. So I'm taking my original curve and I'm going to join it with the other curve that I basically changed its location. And notice what will happen. I will basically have 2 curves. The original curve is going through this direction, and we joined it with itself, just basically another copy, which we did some transformation on it. And right now we basically created the 2 top ropes, and we need to basically duplicate them but from the bottom. And of course this is pretty simple also, which is basically by just duplicating both of these another time but basically beneath them. So to do this, just add another transform node, transform. Let's put it right here and let's drag it a little bit up, and in a logical way this transform node will control both of these 2 ropes. Why is that? Because as you probably remember, the output of these nodes is basically these 2 curves. So when I do a transform, this transform node will be applied in both of these 2 curves. So what I want to do is basically to bring them down on the z-axis, just like so. Let's say -4. And the thing is that we need also to keep the upper ropes. So to do this, all you have to do is the same trick that we just used right here by adding another join geometry. So go Shift A and let's look for join geometry. Let's put it right here and take this and plug it to the join geometry, and boom, you will have 4 curves. I just want to mention that this is not complicated. We're just like using Legos to build this rope. Alright, so right now we do have these 4 curves, and the last thing I'm going to do for this video is basically to just try to clean up this node tree so that it will be easier to learn or to understand, let's say. I'm going to just basically bring this group input right here, and it is right now a perfect time to use the controls spacebar shortcut to maximize it, and let's do like this. If you hit shift with the right mouse button and drag over these links, you will basically make a rerouting node. Look what will happen. Basically, both of these will get connected to this point. So it will be easier and neater to connect them this way. Let's put this one somewhere right here, let's say, and bring this here. And for this join geometry, let's put it right here. Let's do the same thing right here. Let's bring this here. And for this join geometry, let's put it here. And our output will be here. So basically, by doing this, we will at least guarantee that we're more or less organizing our node tree. So yeah, hit Control Spacebar again. And yeah, we just created the main ropes that will be the main driver for our bridge. It might seem like we did not a lot of work, but believe me, this will be the base of everything that we will do. And as you can see, it is not that complicated. All what we're doing is basically to do a transformation and joining it with the rest of the elements. So yeah, save your files and I will see you in the next video where we will basically make them more or less look like actual ropes. So yeah, see you in the next video.